before we get into everything, I want to give a little bit of exposition because last week, allegedly, you went into a retreat, and at this retreat, this healing retreat, they give the participants the plant medicine Iboga, which originates from Gabon, from Africa, and it's reported to have many healing properties and many spiritual properties, whether it's physical healing or being able to see, meet your ancestors on the ancestral plane, and to have just a much greater, deeper understanding of the self and greater consciousness and awareness. So I want to hear about your experience, since it's very fresh, and about the effects and how you're feeling now after having experienced the medicine, which is oftentimes referred to as the grandfather of all medicines. So please share your experience, your wisdom, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was super honored to have to be invited to partake, and it was such short notice that I feel like I didn't really have time to think things through.
Like you weren't planning this well in advance. The opportunity presented itself, and you're like,
yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah, I'm game. And so my expectations were really non-existent because I didn't really do any research. The research I've done on Iboga is essentially talking to you about it, and
because I have allegedly taken it,
and we've talked about it
allegedly.
And one of the main reasons my intention for doing it was to understand my relationship with addiction to everything that I feel I'm addicted to, in a sense, where I'm addicted to food, I'm addicted to consumption of weed, of coffee, of information, and essentially I don't know, like, enough is enough, like when is enough to consume. And so I wanted to understand that relationship, and the clarity that came from it was very simple. Everything that came from it was simplified, like refined very simply, to where I'm addicted to the things that I've been practicing. So if I'm addicted to weed, it's because I've been smoking weed. It's
become a habit.
It's become a habit. If I'm addicted to coffee, if I'm addicted to information consumption, it's because I've been practicing it. I've been doing it.
It's part of a routine now. You're in that rhythm of just
and it's not necessarily bad, because I even wanted to replace it with different addictions. I understand that addiction is kind of a way of humanity. It's like we tend to be addicted to the things that we like.
A small tangent. Why do you think we do that, though? We tend to. Why do you think so?
We're just an animal of habit, and we want to wash, rinse, repeat.
It's easier
like
for us to
comfort, because there's a comfort in it.
There's a comfort in doing something familiar, or like once we've done it, it's like our impulse to be like, well, maybe we could do it better, or maybe we can get more out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Without having to think about it too much.
Exactly. So with like coffee and weed, for instance, just those combinations, I really enjoy them. Like I like the buzz that it gives me, and also I'm not
together. Coffee and weed together?
I love it. It's the best.
Seems like an odd combo. I'm not a big consumer of either.
Yeah.
Because I can't have too much caffeine, and weed and I know there's plenty of great properties to it. It just does not mix well with me.
Yeah. And also it doesn't affect me negatively. Like I drink coffee and I smoke weed and I get to work. Like I do productive things. But I feel like when is enough? Like sometimes it feels like to do the work that I want to do, I'm like, okay, but first I'm gonna get a little high. I get myself.
It becomes a dependency.
Yeah. And so I don't want that dependency. I want to be free. More than anything, I want freedom. So it's more important for me to be free than it is to have my coffee and my weed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to be addicted to anything. I want to consume what I need to consume when I need to consume it, and essentially I want to be able to not have it if necessary, if I don't need it. And so what it showed me was the reason you're addicted to it is because you've been doing it, you've been practicing it. To break that, it's not just about removing it from myself. I have to replace it with something and then practice that, which is why I recently took up jujitsu.
Yeah.
It's I want a new addiction where I want to be addicted to the practice of
pain?
Martial arts. Yeah, it's been
feeling pain. Prior to us recording, he was like gingerly touching himself, and I'm like, "Are you paying people to hurt you again?
Yeah.
For fun?
Again. It's something I tend to do.
I just want to slip that in there.
Yeah.
Again? You know, this is an addiction of yours.
Yeah, well, there you go. I can't break everything all at once. I want this new practice to be something that not only during my practice, but with martial arts especially, from what I understand, is you're thinking about it even when you're not doing it. So I do want that to consume me. I want to be thinking about like, oh, he got me in that neck hold because I exposed myself in this way. So I want
you want to be aware in your practices, not just kind of like going with the rhythm that you're used to.
Right.
Right.
And one of the things that I've learned with plant medicines in the past is like we tend to get stuck in loops, and these loops,
it's very common,
don't start with me. Like my father was stuck in the same loop, my grandfather was stuck in the same loop, and with Iboga it was able to show me like this isn't just you, like this is the loop of your ancestry. And especially with this medicine, it allows you to call upon your ancestors. And one of the first questions I asked was, who is my grandfather? And
so you didn't know who your grandfather?
I've never met my grandfather.
Okay.
On my mother's side.
I see. So your maternal grandfather was a question mark to you.
Yeah, and this is whom I've taken the last name of this grandfather, even though I've never known him. But the stories that I've heard of him, I like the things that my mom shared with me about him.
So did he pass away?
He passed away
when you were young or before you were born?
Let me think about that. He passed away when I was very young, but he was in Cuba.
So you never got to meet him?
I never met him.
I see. So you've only heard stories, secondhand accounts.
I've only heard, exactly. So I wanted to know who my grandfather was, and right away it showed me I am my own grandfather. And it showed me how. Like, I've been playing the same role. Essentially, it's consciousness playing characters.
So the medicine showed you that you were exhibiting similar traits to your grandfather? Like, was it actually showing that, or just showing like similar situations that you and your grandfather have been in?
Yeah, similar
and
situations.
You're reacting to it as
and we react in the same way because we're stuck in that loop, this loop of our beliefs.
It's intergenerational.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the only way to break out of this loop is with your consciousness. You consciously have to get out of it and then practice.
Otherwise it continues and gets passed on to the next generation.
Exactly.
If it's not resolved, I suppose, or if it's not understood.
Exactly. And so since I want to break myself out of the loop of my addictions, I have to consciously put effort into it. I have to consciously not drink coffee and instead go to my new martial arts practice. And that essentially gives me the energy that I get from coffee and gives me new perspectives, a new high that I'm looking for.
Are you looking to just swear off coffee, or just be more conscious of whether or not you want to drink it, as opposed to just going to it right away? Just be like, do I feel like I want it today?
Yeah, I just want to be more mindful.
I see.
And if I want to enjoy a cup of coffee,
then
I can enjoy it.
Yeah. But really enjoy it.
Yeah, really enjoy it, because that's really what I like about it. It's like an experience for me. I like the smell,
I love the smell and the taste. I just can't have the caffeine.
Yeah.
Sad face. But yeah.
Sad face.
No, seriously. Does weird things to me. But yeah, just like actually enjoying the experience as opposed to just using it because you're just used to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
just because it's the thing to do in the morning.
It's just the thing to do.
Yeah. And so I was able to see, like, I am my grandfather. I am my father. We're stuck in this loop. The only way to break out of this addiction is to consciously break out of it on purpose. You see, I went in thinking that Iboga was going to show me something new about myself. I thought it was going to show me, like, oh, when you were a kid, you were molested or something like that. I forgot, that I blocked out. But in reality, it's just simplifying what I already know. Like, it's just momentum. And that's what has swept humanity away is momentum. And so, like, the reason we find ourselves in trouble sometimes is because we are caught in the loop, and we just we
don't know how to break out of it, and we end up getting swept up by other people's emotions. Yeah, or being told what we're supposed to do, and we just go with that,
and we just go with it,
and not pausing
that's
to think.
What we do.
Pausing to think, like, do I really feel this way? So
it takes conscious effort, and that consciousness diminishes when I'm tired, when I'm angry, so it's even harder when, of course, if I didn't get enough sleep, I'm gonna want that cup of coffee even more, so it takes even more conscious effort to be like, you don't really need it, you just need to get better sleep next time. Right? It's just more awareness, more consciousness, and it showed me essentially what consciousness has been doing throughout its existence, through billions of years, up until man was created. All consciousness has been doing is being conscious. And it's only been recent, the last couple billion years or so, that consciousness...
I like how you said recent.
It's recent. In the grand scheme
in universal terms.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, consciousness, it's only been recent that it's actually been solving problems, been putting problems in its own way. And it showed me, like, the first thing that consciousness did, other than being conscious, was to play a game with itself, like Pong. It's just back and forth bouncing a ball. And that's when consciousness first was stimulated by happiness. It was the first time it felt happiness, was when it actually had a problem to solve. And so we find ourselves in this world where there's so many problems. Meanwhile, consciousness has never been happier, because it has something to do. It has problems to solve.
It has puzzles to solve.
Yeah.
More like, instead of, like, if you're using it in terms of games, which is what you and I have oftentimes discussed in terms of consciousness, in terms of why we're here on this three-dimensional plane on Earth, it's a mental, spiritual playground. It's to exercise, it's to try things out. So it's, what we consider to be problems, but really the mind almost creates these things to have in order to have something to work on.
Yeah, to stimulate us.
Otherwise we'd be numb. We'd have nothing to do.
Yeah, dead inside.
Dead inside, right.
Yeah. And I don't want to be dead inside, right? I've had enough of being dead inside. Where it's essentially my personality is dead inside. Like, I really don't show that much emotion.
I wouldn't say you're dead inside. I would just say that
I've been working on it.
It's you may be hard to excite.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to tickle you, I think.
Yeah. I'm not easily impressed.
No, you're really not. Yeah. You could use a little more wonder.
Sure.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that also means that you're not, like, it's like you're not easily swayed by things too, which is a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's positives and negatives to everything. So
going back to the loops and seeing yourself as a grandfather.
So consciousness loves problems to solve, and it's been slowly building up momentum with more problems to solve. So from Pong game, the problems that it creates for itself have been gradually getting more and more difficult, because it's been getting upgraded. It's been leveling up, essentially. That's what you do in a game. You level up, you pass levels, right?
And it gets harder.
And it gets harder.
Based on your ability.
based on your ability, and your ability is based on how much you practice.
and the scale of the puzzles that you're able to solve.
Yeah. This is deep stuff. This is but again, it was nothing new to me. So what it was just reaffirming my own belief system and making me feel even more confident within myself, because I tend to, even with myself, whom I've gone out of my way to surround myself with people who encourage me and uplift me, I still doubt myself all the time.
Well, it's one thing to know this knowledge, to be in possession of it, and another thing to feel motivated to act upon it, to be driven by it. Those are two very different things.
Yeah.
Like, I have plenty of friends who, when they tell me something about their life and they're sharing something that is going on and it's difficult, and I talk to them and I question them, and it seems like they know what to do, but for whatever reason there's a lack of desire to do that, or there's fear attached to it. Like, I know this is the right thing to do, but what if this and this happens? It's just this fear and doubt that stops them from taking action, from carrying out the thing that they know is inevitable. They're just delaying it.
Yeah.
That's self-doubt.
Delaying the inevitable.
Delaying the inevitable. For whatever reason, that fear just keeps them bound and keeps them paralyzed.
Yep.
Even though they know the alternative is just as bad or worse.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you in terms of Iboga not necessarily showing you something new, but kind of removing all those mental obstacles that we have learned to put in front of ourselves. And just clearing the pathway. So it just feels it almost seems like, I mean, I knew that, but why didn't I just do that?
Yeah.
It just makes it so much, like, it's so devastatingly simple, and you knew that it was simple, and yet you can't believe you couldn't do it in the first place. And that's insanity.
Because the reason you couldn't do it is because you haven't been practicing. So it's just a new practice.
It's a new practice. You haven't done it.
Yeah. So for instance, jujitsu is something that I've been wanting to do,
but
I haven't get myself to do it because I haven't gotten myself to practice it before. So it's intimidating, right? To walk into this room of really skilled men who can essentially rip my head apart, to walk into that room and then be humbled by them.
And to be like, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for
thank you, may I have another.
Thank you, may I have another.
Yeah. And then when I first took the medicine and it started to take effect, it was intimidating. It was scary because the visions that I got from them, it was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was so in my face that I was really taken back by it. It was very intrusive to where, I wanted to close my eyes and make it go away, but I closed my eyes and it was like another dimension.
Because you talked to me about this the other day, where a lot of plant medicines have not been very visual to you. Right. Or if it has been visual, quote unquote visual, it's more like you imagine something.
Right.
Like you're just mind associations or creating images while you're in the medicine.
And I question my reality. That's what other plant medicines have done to me before, where it's like I rub my eyes and I'm like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Yeah. But in this one, there's no escape. Like, I'm seeing it with my eyes open, and then I'm seeing something different with my eyes closed, and there's no escape, which makes it extra scary. Because I'm like, man. And
it's only scary because you haven't practiced it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very intimidating. But finally, because of my experience with plant medicine, I was able to give in to just letting it happen, and it felt like I'm seeing, because what Iboga does is it shows you the darkest parts of myself, and that darkness is there's a big light shed on it, so I'm seeing demons and spirits right in my face, and it seems like these demons are coming to me and they're doing something, working on my brain. I can hear them like I'm a vehicle, and it's like fixing things and working on things. And so it just looks like, to me, it looks like demons doing things, flying into me and leaving, coming around, doing something, going away. Mm-hmm. And essentially that was all night long. It's like a 20-hour journey. and
It's a long thing.
there's no escape. Yeah.
It's like caffeine on steroids, where it keeps you up, right?
Yeah.
Iboga keeps you up. You cannot sleep. If you can't sleep, that's a superhuman feat in and of itself. Like, it makes sure that you're awake for the whole ride.
Yeah.
And so it was like that for, you said, 20 hours
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah, like 20 hours straight from 8 p.m. and I didn't get out of it till like 3 p.m. the next day.
Yeah, it's very. Would you say it's the most physically intense medicine you've
the
done?
most physically demanding medicine I've ever done. You know, on other plant medicines, ayahuasca, mushrooms, you're kind of woozy from it, but essentially you can get around. You can get yourself
you're
to
quite
the
functional
restroom.
after a couple hours.
Yeah. With this one, you really need help, and you're dead weight to whoever's helping you.
It's definitely a humbling. You need to learn how to accept help.
Yeah,
and
you need to ask for help.
Ask for help.
You have to ask for help, because at some point you have to get to the bathroom. There's no escape.
It's actually, and I described it before in another video, you just feel like your brain is just in a vat of water, and it just, every motion seems to take a lot out of you, and you just want to move very slowly.
Yeah. But strangely enough, when you stay still, my mind feels clear.
Yes.
I don't feel like I'm drugged.
Yeah,
I feel very sober.
You feel very alert when you're still.
When you're still.
It teaches you stillness. It teaches you almost like in slow motion, real time is the only way I can describe it. Like really metering out whether or not something is worth your while. So it really asks you, by physically making it difficult for you to move, like, do you really want to do this? It really puts you to the test as to what is important to you.
Yeah.
Because you have to measure out your energy accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very humbling to be in that position, to be forced to ask for help, raise your hand, and to get yourself to do it. Like, you have to really, get yourself to that position where you're just, off keister, stumbling.
Or, I'm just gonna lay here. I'm just gonna rest. I'm gonna put myself together. Really ask yourself, are you thirsty? Do you really want that water?
Yeah. Do you really want to take that trip to the restroom right now?
Do you really? Is that the number one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you do, you really muster up all your energy to do that.
Yep. Yeah, you really earn it.
You really earn it. You really earned that trip. Yeah, that was my experience with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes you very grateful. It makes you very grateful for the ability that you have in a kind of your everyday mode. Just, you don't take anything for granted after you have a trip like Iboga.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was essentially my first night, my first ceremony.
Right, because it's a 4-day thing. So you take the first night that you're there, you take the medicine, then you get to rest the next day, and then you take it again on the third day. Correct?
Right.
So
Yeah. On the second ceremony, I was able to be a little bit more comfortable with it, faster. I was able to let go of any resistance that I had been holding on to the first night, and it was really showing me how to have fun with the medicine.
Yeah, because you're too tired to resist at that point.
Yeah, it's just
get him while he's down.
Yeah.
Get him while he's too weak to resist.
Yeah,
just hit him with everything. Right.
So it was good for me. It was able to just show me, essentially, how to create. So anything I want to create in this real world, things that I want to manifest, whether it be love, abundance, it shows me a blank screen. And then I get the ability to create.
Blank screen, blank canvas.
Blank canvas. And then that was the biggest lesson of it. Like, after a whole night, like it's showing me, like, when you're ready to create, you want to create from a blank screen. Meaning, forget about what you think you know.
Or what other people may want to put in there.
Yeah. And just wipe it clean and just start creating like from a curious child's standpoint. And that was very empowering to me, because I suspected that that's how you're supposed to create, but there's an attachment to wanting to, like, oh, I already know how to create. like I want to hold on to the things that work, but it's okay to let those things go. It's okay to forget about what I believe, forget about my beliefs. Like, they're not important to my creation, to whatever I'm trying to manifest. Forget it. And that's an empowering thought to me. And I would say that I do want to create from that curiosity, that just natural, childlike curiosity that doesn't know anything. Solve problems from a place where I don't know how to solve problems. I've never solved problems before. But you figure it out. You figure it out with a blank slate. And that's a good empowering way to think for myself.
Did you see anything else?
On the second night, on the first night, it was like a movie that I had no control over. And it was
the second one was much more interactive.
Yeah. The second one, it felt like I was in the driver's seat of like a video game. And I felt like I had the controls. And I was able to create at will. And even though there's a lot of blank spots where I can't remember the details of everything I was creating, I can't remember the details of everything I was making happen. But essentially the biggest lesson is, like, I don't really need to remember all the details. I just need to remember, like, when I'm ready to create something, create it from a place of blankness. Like, forget about everything and create from zero, from ground zero. And that's where you want to create from, like a new foundation, a new story.
Yeah, to create something from nothing.
Yeah. And it fits in.
That's the whole creative process, I believe.
It is. Yeah. It fits in perfectly with with our story, because it's a new story. It's that story that we create. It's not based on our childhood. It's not based on our parents' story, our grandparents' story. It's not based on the loop that we've been stuck in. It's a new thing. Yeah.
Yeah, creation or art, let's say just using art for an example, I definitely feel like the things in your past may have an effect on the lens, but it shouldn't necessarily be all that you depict all the time. It oftentimes should be seen through how you're feeling now about it, right? How do you view it now? And so that's where you begin from, I feel. Like you, whether it's writing a book or a movie, like, even if you're writing a movie about a period piece, you kind of view it through your lens now. Like, it's a new twist on something, right? And so I guess what I'm just getting at in that way is it's like, you may not know until that moment what you really want to do. And what you felt like was pertinent before may not apply right now. So you need to start with losing any attachment to what you had before, and what is needed in this moment. What do I want to create in this moment? And that's why it's perpetually a blank slate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Another thing about Iboga is, other than how it simplifies everything, so much so that you kind of want to disagree with it. You're like, it can't be that simple.
You're almost in denial.
Yeah.
You're just like,
it's like a little bit of phase of a denial, in the beginning. But essentially, what it was able to reinforce in me that I already believe is that these bodies are already the most advanced piece of technology ever created.
We are very complex creatures.
And we're machines. And we've been, like, we're stuck in that loop. It's a program that we're stuck in. And that program is code. It's a code. And to break out of that code, to break out of that program, you have to consciously reprogram yourself. You have to write in a new code. And so if I find myself that I don't love myself, I have to literally say, I love you, I love you, I love you to myself. And I have to even...
Do you have difficulty doing that?
I have been practicing for a while.
It's not that's not my question.
No, not anymore. I don't have difficulty.
You used to though.
Yeah, because I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't even know that I was supposed to love myself.
But do you feel it when you say it to yourself?
I do.
Truly mean it.
Yeah, I really do mean it. But it wasn't always like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at first when I started saying it, it didn't mean anything to me.
You were just doing it as a practice.
As a practice, yeah. Because somehow I consciously knew the importance of it. So even though it wasn't resonating with me, I knew that it was an important practice.
It's one of those things where you know it, but you don't quite believe it yet. It's not a motivating force in your life.
Yeah. So I write the code, lines of code. I have to do it every day until it starts to mean something to me. The same thing with like resentment. I tend to hold on to the way things I feel should be, and so when I feel that resentment, I have to say, "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." And then that's the code. That's the line of code. You're writing the new code. Reprogram myself consciously, and that goes with anything. With jiu-jitsu, this is a new practice to me. I have really no idea what these guys are doing to me, right? It's a new code, and like to understand what they're doing and why it's so effective, why they're able to like get my arms in locks and choke me out so easily. I have to practice. And then I have to think about like, man, he got me. Like, how did he get me? And it's a new code. I want to reprogram myself consciously. That's the only way to break out of the loop. It's consciousness. Consciousness is the secret. Like if you're in doubt about how to get yourself to do something, it's with your consciousness. That's how to reprogram yourself. It's a conscious effort. And it's effort. It's a lot of effort. It's every day. It's effort. Until you get that practice where it becomes natural, and then it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier, and you start building momentum with your new beliefs, with your new way of looking at things, and it does get easier. It really does. You really do start to love yourself. You really do start to look at the world differently, where it's not resentful, where I'm not looking at the world where it should be this way. No, obviously it shouldn't be, because it's not. And so it just clears things up in that way, where it makes it easier on me, because it makes me aware of like, well, it's not just me, you know, it's my momentum, and I just have to consciously break it. I have to consciously, and it gets hard when, like I said, when I'm tired, when I'm angry, when I've had enough and I just want to lean back into what's comfortable. I have to consciously make that effort to, no, this is my new practice. This is my new belief system. I have to put it into my awareness. I have to actually make a conscious effort to continue it, even when I don't feel like it, even when I do feel like leaning back into my comfort zone.
Yeah, because it feels safe. You feel safe and it's easy. So if I were to summarize what you learned from your Iboga retreat, right? It would be to be conscious of the loops that you get into, loops/addictions, whatever word that you want to use to describe it, and to make more conscious decisions about what you're doing, about what you want to do, and to just put it into action. I mean, once you put it into action, then it becomes something that will begin to feel more natural. But doing it because you know it's good for you, and not because, or that's because you want, not because that's just something, it is the thing to do. You say that's the first thing that you got out of it. And then the second thing that I'm hearing is that in the process of creating anything, when you're the creator, you're in a creative process, to start from a blank slate, to start fresh at every time, and go from there. My son, I know we talked a lot about a lot of different things, but would that be kind of the two main takeaways that you had?
Yeah.
From here.
Yeah, and it's perfectly fine to simplify it like that, because it really is that simple. It's only two things.
It's only those two things. But that was essentially days of journeying for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that you hear my experience with it, how does it compare to the lessons that you got from Iboga?
I mean, I experienced it differently, but I essentially got the same things out of it, right? Because in my experience, it was just like taking the first one. I didn't have an issue with loops per se, because I think I don't have that many addictions, and usually I tend to go. I oftentimes been a creature of just what I feel in the moment, and I don't do things just for the sake of doing them. But in terms of like the how it simplifies things, and I definitely relate to the part where you're saying I knew these things, but why didn't I just do them? And the whole removing of the doubts, the removing of the fears, and the removing of the programming that we've put into ourselves, all the codes, as you would say, all the coding that we put in. Like, we can also create new code. Like, it's not just, you can't just think that this is just how I am. You can change who you are.
Yeah.
In any given moment. You can do it right now. You can do it tomorrow, but you can just do it whenever. You just have to be disciplined about it.
Yeah.
Just
the idea that you can't change it is that old victim program.
It's a victim program, yeah. And so I got to see that very clearly. My journey was more of a kind of really seeing me for me, and not seeing myself through other people's eyes. So that was important. And in terms of, I think how messages are delivered is similar. The messages I received are different because I think it's depending on the person. Every person needs to hear something a little bit different, right? But in terms of just like, it's like this, and it's just that simple. The clarity with which messages and lessons were received was very much like yours. So yeah, in that perhaps content-wise, I didn't necessarily get those things, but in terms of the how and overall how it helps you with your life, that sounds pretty much similar.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And on another healing note, things that I didn't know about Iboga is the physically healing aspects of it. Where there was this woman at the retreat, shout out to Elizabeth, where she was suffering from terrible arthritis before coming to Iboga, and she started taking microdoses of Iboga. Although she was taking it for different reasons, she was taking it for diet reasons. Mm-hmm. But after 2 days of having after months and months of her arthritis just getting worse and worse, after 2 days of microdosing it, she was completely healed from her arthritis, which I've never heard of before. I've heard that arthritis can get really bad.
Is this from one ceremony or multiple for her? This person.
This was her first ceremony, and she came to it because of the great benefit that she did from just 2 days of microdosing.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. And even like Derek mentioned it, where he had like a little bit of shoulder pain, and he was like, you know what, it's gone. And I was like, you know what, me too. I was like, it makes your body feel good. Like it feels like, that first night where it felt like I was being worked on, like a vehicle, like. Oh,
that I can definitely relate to.
Yeah.
You can also feel your brain being worked on, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, it's like just both a wrecking crew and a restoration crew going in there, and just like you just feel things being rewired, retapped, rebuilt. It's inadequate trying to explain it, but that's really what it feels like.
Yeah.
I have another friend, we'll just call him D. D, growing up, had what he described as very severe autism, very socially awkward, couldn't really make eye contact, had a lot of trouble processing things. Again, this is his words. Like I was not there to see, but apparently he was functional enough to at least get introduced to things like plant medicine and the like. He said he did Iboga multiple times. Well, I have to say well over a dozen, but I'm quite sure he said like maybe 2-3 dozen times. And it helped him. It helped him cope, find ways to work with his autism and to be more, I guess, socially like more high functioning in terms of what we describe as being high functioning in society today, and being able to interact with people more and to not feel a lot of stress and to be able to talk. Like I think he had even issues talking before. It helped him to that extent. So I've heard pretty miraculous stories about Iboga in terms of just the physical healing that it can do as well.
Yeah, that's really
pretty,
something.
That's pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, would you do it again?
I would do it again. Not anytime soon.
That's exactly what I said.
I would do it again. Maybe a
Don't
couple
ask
years.
me right now, but maybe in the future, if you were to ask me, I'd be like, yeah. It's been a couple years for me. So I would be, again, I'm not like jumping
it's
at
really
it again.
hard to choke down. It's like the hardest medicine to take.
Like sawdust.
Orally. Yeah, it's like drinking sawdust, and you have to get it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
just close your eyes and think about the healing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you recommend this, and to whom would you recommend this to?
I mean, I would recommend it. Before with like ayahuasca, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because I feel like you should be called to it. And in this case, I feel like you should be called to it as well. But the benefits are so visibly real that, if you just get like a little bit of inkling, if you're suffering from pain, if you're suffering from trauma, if you're suffering from something, it's definitely a way to get you out of it, to show you something different. And, not to get all conspiracy theory and stuff, but, we often think of like these pharmaceutical companies as being evil and keeping things, because they know, like this is something that they definitely know, but they can't monetize it. There's no money in giving you something that cures you.
In helping people get better.
Yeah. So
that's not what we call a sustainable business model.
Right. So essentially, if you want to learn something from pharmaceutical companies is how to be profitable, you can copy that. But they're not in the business of healing. They're in the business of making money. But they're not evil. It's really important to stipulate that. They're not doing this on purpose. They're doing it because they're also caught up by the momentum of history. And they're
in their minds, they're saving jobs. They're creating opportunities for other people. They're employing a bunch of people. They're making livings.
That's right.
Whatever they have a multitude of their own justifications as to why they do what they do.
Right. And also, they didn't start it. Like they didn't start the pharmaceutical industry. They're just people with jobs now at this point. Mm-hmm. That pharmaceutical train is AI with has been gathering momentum for a long time.
They've accelerated so much to a point where they're just cruising right now.
Yeah.
They're on cruise control.
They're caught in it. And the only way to break it, to break them out of it, to break ourselves out of it, is to stop participating in it. Like it's pretty evident, not to everybody, but at least it is to us, that it's not effective to be taking drugs for such a long period of time. Not to say that you can't take like
an Advil,
a Xanax if you feel depressed, but you're supposed to be able to wean yourself off of it.
Not to be taking it all the time because that's just the thing to do.
Right. And what these drugs do is they do get you hooked. They get you hooked because they make you feel good. And you think that it's the drug, but it's really you putting effort into making yourself feel good. So sometimes you might need an Advil because your head hurts. It doesn't mean that you need an Advil all the time, every day. Mm-hmm. And so pharmaceutical companies, I'm not coming after you. Don't
kill me.
Don't kill me.
We're laughing because it's true.
I'm saying it because I love you. Like I know that you're just people with jobs. Like I'm not holding anything against you.
I'm not holding resentment against you. I understand. We're here for you.
We are, and the truth is, like, I realize that these people that they're stuck in loops, they really need us more than we need us. Like, they really need us to snap out of it, so that we stop being so dependent on them, and that they can be more creative and do other things other than just sell drugs. And it has its place. Drugs do have its place. Some people can benefit from them for a short period of time. But
Everything has its utility. It's just when you start abusing it or when it's being used incorrectly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that goes with anything. It's like too many cheeseburgers. It's like you can get
How
them
dare
anywhere.
you?
You get. It is. It is. It's our tendency to be addicted to the things that make us feel good, and it's up to us to break out of that. Nobody else is going to do it for us.
What did the yoga teacher say? Find comfort in discomfort.
Yeah.
Every yoga teacher has said that. Okay, well, thank you for sharing your journey, your Iboga journey with us today. Thank you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
And love you. From one person who's taken it to another, I respect it. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's so deeply rewarding. So I'm really glad that you had such a great experience out of it. If you like our videos on consciousness, on healing, on plant medicine, make sure to like the video so you can share the wealth with other people, or subscribe so you can get updates on our new videos, and follow our social media, which we'll put on a graphic here. And
now you're gonna make me put the graphic.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it now. You're gonna have to do it. We
Okay.
haven't been doing it. And until next time, we'll tell you a little bit more on the next time we have our story.
Love you.